Welcome back to another episode of Keen on Australia, where we talk about all things with moving to Australia, living to Australia, and getting used with life in Australia. We've had a lot of questions from our listeners, and one of the more important ones seems to be people's about sort of snakes and spiders and things like that. And we thought, who was better to go see than a snake catcher? Obviously, someone that spends their entire life around looking after our reptiles, re-relocating them, and knows all the information we can. I actually saw some of Tony's videos flicking around on TikTok. It sort of reminded me of my younger days of watching old Steve Irwin catching stuff and releasing it. He's got these great videos out there of how he goes to your house and basically removes snakes and moves them on. So, Tony, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Good morning, champion. How you doing? Look, my whole life I've been interested in creepy crawlies. I initially moved to Queensland at the age of 20-something to start up a fishing charter business. And because where I grew up initially in Sydney, I wasn't allowed to legally keep reptiles, but I've always been chasing them, flipping tin, looking for them wherever I went. I always look for reptiles. When I moved to Queensland, I found out you legally were allowed to have a permit and keep captive bred reptiles. So I did exactly that. Got myself a reputation in my suburb as the local snake guru. And then from there, one of the neighbours came down, knocked on the door and said, "Mate, can you come and help us out with this snake?" So I went down to have a look to see what it was, and her husband had chopped it up. And it was a carpet python. There were eggs everywhere, and I was a little bit frustrated at the way he had done that. I said, "Mate, why would you do that?" And he said, "Oh, it's in case it was venomous." I said, "That's like me shooting someone walking in the driveway in case they're a burglar. That's the wrong attitude to have. Why didn't you call a snake catcher?" And he said, "There aren't any." So as if there's not. So I looked at it, and there was a guy hours away. I thought, let's do that. Let's maybe save one or two snakes here and there. To my surprise, it turned out being 12 to 15 a day, not one or two here and there. And I did it on the side just to save snakes initially. And then I thought to myself after a while, you know what? This is consuming my entire life. I've been doing it for 2 years for free. Let's start asking for donations. And then I turned it into a business. ABN, cut my hair, made myself look half respectable. And from there, it has evolved. Obviously, during winter time, the cold-blooded animals slow down. The bills keep coming in, and I was stressing. And one of my mates said, "Why don't you do reptile shows?" I thought, "Mate, I can't talk to people." And it turns out I can talk underwater with a mouthful of golf balls. And from there, my business was born. During winter, do shows, and during summer, do snake catching.
That's awesome, Tony. So you say you're catching and removing quite a few. How common is it for someone to actually get a snake in their backyard if they're living, say they're living in the Gold Coast or Brisbane, in the actual city itself? Are they common in city areas?
You get them everywhere. My first job yesterday was in Surfers Paradise. You get them everywhere. I hear people say, "I'm from the bush." I'm thinking, look, it doesn't mean anything. You live in a high-rise building in Surfers, you'll get snakes. You live out in the bush, you'll get snakes. They're everywhere. Obviously, it does depict what species you come across, but.
And is there certain times a year that all the conditions changing that makes it more common to see them?
Naturally, cold-blooded animals are more active during the warmer days. And just after winter, obviously, it's Mother Nature's cue that when spring comes and the weather gets above 23 degrees, all the female reptiles ovulate and all the males, and right, it's that time of the year. So what happens, obviously, most wildlife spend their entire life trying to get food and not become food. So they've got to have a level of common sense whilst they do their daily routine. But when it comes to breeding, all that common sense goes out the window and he just goes looking for her. So all the snakes that are normally hiding and depending on being camouflaged and cryptic, they just come out and cross that yard and cross that road and cross that school because they can smell her over there and they don't care. They want to get there before his mate does. So during August, September, October, we see a heap. There's a massive increase. Then now in November, it dies off a little bit, and then it slowly starts to pick up again to the busiest time where it's January, February, March. And the reasons why it's busier there, because mum, dad, and all the newborn kids are now out looking for food.
Awesome. And like, if someone did, say they walked out of their backyard, they went through the washing and they saw some sort of snake on the ground or whatever, and it's at their home, what should they do? What's the best steps for them?
Look, the best way to answer that is obviously some species of snakes can potentially be dangerous. So don't go and mess with it. But it's our human nature to think it's a snake. It doesn't have legs. We must kill it. We must chop its head off. Or I've seen Steve Irwin a few times on TV. I'll go and try and catch it myself. Or they try and get in close to get a photo. And that's when they get in trouble because snakes don't have arms or legs. They don't growl or bark like a dog. All they can do is puff themselves up to make themselves look big. And the next step is to bite. Even if it's a harmless python, they have nearly 100 teeth. And if it's a venomous snake, it'll put you in hospital or worse. And that's how accidents happen. And my analogy I use, I think, okay, if I walked out my backyard now and I seen a magpie, would I go and mess with it? No, we wouldn't even look at it. We wouldn't even think, oh, look, there's a magpie, because we're so used to seeing it. But up here on the Gold Coast, another analogy I use, for every bird you see, there is a snake. Except birds are colourful, noisy, and they fly out in the open. Snakes are camouflage, quiet, and they stay out of your hair. They're stealthy, you know, they don't want to come into contact with us humans. But when we see one, we naturally go and stir it up. So the best thing to do, if you do see a snake, is to grab your phone and go, dunk, and take a photo. Because 9 times out of 10, that snake will bolt before you can even scream the word snake. And then if you want to know what it is, send it to the local snake catcher and get it positively identified. Don't put it on Facebook because it will be identified from everything from a chihuahua up to an anaconda, you know. So find a licensed professional snake catcher, get it positively identified, and then from there you can go, that's a tree snake, I'm cool with that. Oh, it's an Eastern brown. Wow, I should probably be aware for the next couple of weeks. And when I see it again, cool, that guy I just found out. So definitely don't go and mess with it because then you'll end up in a hospital.
So if you do want it off your property,
Yep.
you try and keep your distance and watch where it goes, or do you just ring someone like you and just stay completely away, go inside, or do you stay back a bit and try and keep an eye on it, or what's
That's a very, very, very good question. That's one of the most important questions, I think. Because like just then, as I was trying to get into the Zoom meeting, somebody called me from Gundawindi, which is 4.5 hours that way. There's no way I'm driving up there, and I'm thinking to myself, good luck finding a snake catcher. Sometimes people will be painted into a corner where they can't get help, but obviously, even if, let's say, someone from Gundawindi had an Eastern brown in their house and they took a photo of it, there are ways that we can help over the phone. But if you are a local and you do already have the phone number of a snake catcher, don't see the snake and go inside and have a coffee and then 2 hours later ring up and hope that snake catcher is going to have some magical wand to come and find that snake. Because remember, that snake thinks that us humans are going to eat them. So they panic and they try hard to get away from us. But if you walk out in your backyard right now and seen a snake, it would nip into the first bit of refuge behind a bucket under your hot water system in that pile of palm fronds, and it'll be sitting there going, oh, there they go again. They didn't notice me. And then when you keep going, it will disappear and bolt back to wherever it lives. But if you've seen a snake and you go, aha, just went into those palm fronds, I didn't manage to get a photo. Getting a photo would be better, but I didn't. At least stand there and watch those palm fronds. Because once you call the snake catcher, he's going to turn up and you're going to go, I've been standing here the whole time. It's definitely in those palm fronds. Or if the snake does move on, you then can go, well, you know what, mate, it was that over there, but it's now just gone into under there. Then we can catch it. But some customers go, see that botanical gardens? Somewhere in that giant 100 acres of bush is a little hatchling green tree snake. Go find it. And then they go, oh, why didn't he find it? He's a hopeless snake catcher. Obviously, he's not going to be still sitting there waiting for us on a silver platter. So stay there, don't stir it up. And some people misconstrue what I mean by keep an eye on it. They go 2 stories up, and they peek through the curtain going, yeah, I've got my eye on it. Your presence is necessary so that snake sees you. Don't go up there and stir it up and hassle it. Stand about 2 or 3 meters back and keep an eye on that garden or that palm from or that hot water system, wherever it is the snake's disappeared, and the snake will go, oop, nope, they're still there. And he'll pull back in again. And he will be there waiting for us when we turn up to catch it.
That's awesome tips for people so they know what they can do to actually get someone like yourself to remove it. Now, in the unlikely event that someone did get bitten by a snake, what do they actually do? Is there a procedure they should follow? Is there training they can get?
100%. Look, snake's venom is not a weapon. That venom is a protein in their saliva that is designed to break down or paralyze their food if it is a venomous snake. Some snakes constrict. Green tree snakes and keelbacks will grab their frog and eat it still kicking and screaming. You can still hear it screaming in their belly, like it doesn't die. They eat it alive. But then there's venomous snakes that, because evolution has created, for example, a coastal taipan has to eat a really large bandicoot that lives in the cane fields. And if he was to grab that and hang on to it, that bandicoot's going to turn around and rip chunks out of that snake before it gets eaten. So they've evolved to have a protein in their saliva so they can go tap, pull back, and that rat or bat or bandicoot, whatever it might be, we're going, whew, that was close, and start to walk off. Now that protein is designed to travel in the lymphatic system, which is the fat layer just underneath the skin of that animal. And the more it moves, the more it activates that venom, and then pumps throughout the body to the places it needs to be to either cause it to be paralyzed or cause it to whatever, because different snake venom affect different parts of your body. And then that animal goes, falls over. The snake uses its forked tongue to go, yep, I can smell where you've been. I'll follow that trail. There you are, passed out, waiting for me to eat you casually. Now, that protein has the same effect on us. So if a snake's sitting there going, get away, mate, get away, and you go tap, unfortunately, when that protein gets under our skin, same thing happens whether you're a rat or whether you're an elephant. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. Your health does affect it. If you're carrying a few kilos like me, or if you drink too much, or if your heart or your kidneys are a bit damaged already, then you're in trouble. But the reality these days, if you were to administer first aid, the chances of dying are slim. Now, that first aid is a compression bandage or an elastic bandage that, let's just say, I got bitten right here, right now. I don't try and catch or kill that snake because that's going to get me bitten again. I don't get my mate over there to try and catch and kill that snake because he's going to be laying in a hospital next to me. I would ignore that snake. I would treat it like the worst possible scenario. I think, okay, I've been bitten. Let's pretend it's an Eastern brown. Because you sit there and go, oh, I think it's a green tree. I think it's a keelback. I should be right. They're the worst things you can possibly do. That I should be right. Should be right. That's the worst thing we can do. So you treat it like the worst possible scenario. You don't wash it. You don't cut it. You don't suck it. You get that bandage and you apply pressure to the skin. So you wrap over the bite side and all the way up your limb. And you do not jump in a car and drive yourself to hospital because if you pass out, you're going to take somebody else out with you, or you're really going to hurt yourself when you hit a pole or whatever. And so, in other words, I've applied that pressure. I've slowed down the process. I've got a pen and I've gone, well, it bit me there. And the reason's weight. Like, I don't think the hospitals actually do a swab now. So what I'm about to say might not be necessary. In the old days, like a couple of years ago, you'd do a cross on the bandage. So they're not lifting the bandage off so they can do a swab. Because then I go, let's test this out. Yep, come back tiger snake. Let's see if he's been envenomated. Yep, he's been envenomated. Let's start treating him. So they used to, but now they treat you with a broad spectrum antivenin. So I'm not too sure whether they still need that cross, but look, I would do it anyway. And then you don't drive yourself to hospital. You call an ambulance or you get someone else to drive you to hospital. While you're on your way to hospital, you ring them up and say, oh, look, I've been bitten by a snake. I'm on my way. And they'll be there at the door waiting for you ready because it's pretty important. Now, that bandage is the difference between life and death. You put it from the bite side all the way up to your shoulder if you've been bitten on the arm. If you've been bitten on the leg, you run it from your ankle all the way up to your groin. You try to stay calm because you remember I said when that mouse or rat runs around, ha, 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 that snake nearly got me. That movement expedites the process by staying calm. It buys you a lot of time.
Awesome. That's great tips. And then, like, you're out and about, you're in Bunnings, places like that, you see next to the first aid kits, snake bite kits all the time.
Yep.
Would you recommend most houses have one of them, or is what's in your normal first aid kit enough?
100%, because your average medical kit does have. I should have had one with me to show you. Actually, I might have had one nearby because obviously in a snake room now. But the average medical kit gives you a crash bandage that's got X amount of elasticity and also so what. Most of them will not bandage and cover your entire arm or your entire leg. You can buy snake bite specific bandages. There are ones they're about I think 100, 150 mil. They've got little squares on them, and those squares, I'm trying to see, there should be one here, that are designed to let you gauge you as to how tight to put it on your arm. Because if you put it on too tight, it can do damage to your arm. If you don't put it on tight enough, obviously the venom's going to get through. And a lot of people ask that question, how tight do I put it on? They used to say about as tight as if you sprained your wrist. But most people go and smash it on, and next you know your fingers are going blue and it hurts like anything. You've got to release it anyway, so you're not doing the right thing. So I myself go to the Chemist Warehouse, and for $10 they sell them, and they are really long, so they cover your whole leg, and they've got those cubes on them and the little squares, because those squares, if you put it on not tight enough, it's a rectangle. And if you put it on the perfect tightness, it's a nice neat square. And if you put it on too tight, it's a rectangle in the opposite direction. So if you bandage that up and those squares are nice and neat all the way up your arm or up your leg, well, then you know you've put it on perfectly. Ooh. So look, you can use those ones from a medical kit, but to be honest with you, the snake bite specific ones are about $13, $14 or thereabout. That's just the bandage. The Chemist Warehouse ones are about $10. Then you can buy medical kits that have got the sling to hold your arm or your leg calm, a splint. They've got bandages. They've got little descriptions with them on how to treat first aid. So it depends on what you want to do. But let's just say you go the whole hog and you buy the snake bite specific medical kit. And what are they? $70. $70. I've got them in every car and in the house, believe it or not. That's why I'm looking around going, yeah, I can't find it. But anyway, they're everywhere in case it happens to someone, so we can really quickly do it. And that's the difference between life and death.
That's awesome. Thanks for those tips. And then you talk about the anti-venom and that. With your job, obviously, there's a potential every day that you could get bitten. Can you carry anti-venom, or do you guys have it as snake catchers?
That's a fantastic question, because a lot of people think, let's wait for that truck to go past. A lot of people think that anti-venom is like having Disprin in your cupboard. So when you get a hangover, take a Disprin and the problem goes away. It's not like that at all. You see, anti-venom is made out of horse blood and snake venom. And putting that in your body, if I gave you anti-venom right now, you'd be very, very sick. It's like putting diesel in a petrol car. So when they have determined that you have been envenomated, they then start to trick your body into accepting it with antihistamines and cortisones and all sorts of, I'm not a medical practitioner, so I'm not too sure what it is, but adrenaline, all sorts of things to trick your body into accepting it, while this anti-venom goes into your body and undoes the enzymes that kill you. And once you are okay and you've got over the snake bite, you then suffer from serum sickness quite often, and that's because you've got antivenin in you. So, and it's worth $5 per ampule, and it's snake bite specific, and it's got a shelf life. So I'm not going to go and buy $5, $10, $20,000 worth of Eastern Brown antivenin, put it in my fridge, and then however many $1,000 worth of tiger snake, and however many $1,000 worth of taipan, and keep it all in my fridge, and then hope that I can administer it myself. It's not like that. That bandage, which costs you $10, and then the phone call to the ambulance, 20 minutes later, it depends on where you live, you're in hospital, and let those guys worry about it. These days, the government here in Australia pay for your hospital trip. So the reality is put that bandage on and get to hospital. That's all you need. You don't need the antivenin. The hospitals carry that. The government supplies it.
So what about if you're wanting to keep snakes away more? Like, are there repellents you can have, or is there things you could do to your home to make it less appealing to having snakes around your house?
That's a fantastic question as well. I can say a few things, and you could almost say that I'm fibbing now. There's two things in life that snakes want: food and refuge. And if you walk around, like you look at my house compared to a house, a couple of the houses down, they've got corrugated iron lying down. They have car parts everywhere. They have railway sleepers. They've got a dam. They've got long grass. They've got crap everywhere. So it's attracting the rats and mice, the frogs, and giving them refuge. It's like the park rule and the small sport all rolled into one over there. But when I moved into my property here, I cleared a lot of it to my wife's dismay because she didn't want all those plants moved. But I cleared it, so it's a little less inviting. Having said that, we've had 19 snakes in 3 years here. And some of my busiest customers on Main Beach in Surfers Paradise, I've removed over 1,600 snakes, and it's the most manicured lawn in history. But just north of that same business is the Spit, and it's 3 kilometres of full-on bush. It's untouched, and the snakes breed in there, and they travel through this other business. So the objective is to try to keep your yard tidy and clear of stuff that you get people that hoard. That's going to give the snake a place to live and attract the frogs and lizards and birds and whatever it is that snakes eat. So if you keep your property tidy, you are less likely to get snakes. It's going to make it impossible. Those snake vibrating repellers are a dangerous placebo. They sell them hand over fist. The organisation sitting there in a leather lounge drinking pina coladas. And the reality of it, let's just say you bought 10 of them, you've paid your money, you put them in your yard, it gives you a false sense of security. Yeah, don't worry about the dogs. I've got snake repellers. Let the kids go out and play without shoes. That's a dangerous thing, because the reality is, you probably see with our live feeds that we do, how many jobs I turn up to. I go, snake repeller, snake repeller, snake repeller. I go through 10 of them, and then I go, snake. And the customer goes, no, they work. And I think, well, I'm not here for coffee and scones. There's a snake here, isn't there? And that same business that I told you about in Main Beach spent $8,500 on heaps of those repellers. And we've found snakes under them, on them, around them. They just do not do a single thing. They give you a false sense of security. There are organisations that sell this stuff called shoe snake, which is 200 ml of water mixed with clothes. If you want to bake a cake, go for it. But otherwise, it does nothing for snakes. If you can design something that 100% deters snakes, you're driving Ferraris tomorrow, mate. You're a rich man.
That's awesome. So yeah, the biggest key is obviously what you said then, is just keep your property tidy. Don't have grains and mice food and other things scattered around of rubbish, and basically make it less appealing for them to come for food, and that'll keep them generally away.
Yep, 100%. Look, some customers say, how can I make my place 100% snake proof? There's one answer: move to Auckland.
Yeah, most people are moving from Auckland to here, so it's happening. So you've got people out there obviously that have great interest. Maybe their kids have some interest. Where are some great places they can find out more things about snakes and our Australian reptiles? And that, is there some good places out there for them to learn some education?
Look, myself, the way I educated myself was buying books and reading them, and then in the field as a kid playing with them. There's lots of things that as I grew up, I thought that I was right, but then later on in life found out that I was wrong. But these days, there's so much social media, the paid TV, and there's so many demonstrators that do it. It's hard for the kids not to know. Obviously, if I wanted to go and see something, I myself do reptile demonstrations, kids' parties and stuff like that. That's a little bit of education. You can go to zoos. Then mostly on YouTube and Facebook and stuff like that, you learn. Our page itself is set up purely for that reason. And per day, we get multiple people say, you know what, Tony, thank you for what you just put there then, because I've been terrified of snakes my entire 60 years on this planet. And in the last 6 months, watching you guys do what you do, I relaxed a little. And guess what? I just had a snake and I knew exactly what to do. I knew exactly how to do it. and I didn't even panic. And then I sat back and thought, wow. And that's because while we're doing our relocations, we do a live feed, sometimes a hard copy recording, and we go, look, this is a carpet python, he's a harmless snake, nearly 100 teeth, totally non-venomous. Here's a nocturnal constrictor, blah, blah, blah. And we just give a spiel about that snake, and obviously doing 10 or 15 snake calls a day, the members of the public that watch our live feeds get to learn about them. And next thing you know, the old education is key, and they're not so fed by the media going, snakes are deadly, they are bad, this, that, snakes on a plane, all that bullshit, which horrifies people. The reality of it is, 2 people per year in Australia die from snake bite, 5 from dogs, 20 from horses. I've got a dog and 2 horses. Be cheaper to own a pet Eastern Brown. Yes, they are potentially dangerous if you mess with them. So are motorbikes. So is anything in life, the way you handle it. If you handle it irresponsibly, you're going to get hurt. So the objective is to leave it alone and stir them up, and you'll be right. I've got customers locally that, well, just in the last half an hour while I've been talking to you, I'm even some that haven't answered yet, I'm getting texts from customers saying, what is this? Should I be worried? Blah, blah, blah. I was panicking. I've got 2 dogs. Don't worry about it. It's not a snake. It's actually a lizard. That one's a green tree snake. And they sit there and I don't hear back from them. And most people, I've even got customers that see an Eastern Brown and think, well, I don't have dogs, I don't have horses, I don't have kids anymore. They've moved out and got their own kids. It can stay there. I'm aware that it's there. I'm cool with it. I personally, on this property, we've seen Eastern small-eyed snakes, whips, carpets, keelbacks galore, green trees galore. If I've seen an Eastern Brown, although my neighbours said they've seen an Eastern Brown on my property, I haven't seen one yet. I would move it, not because of me or my son, because my son knows what to do, and not because of my dog, because my dog wouldn't give two hoots, but my neighbour's got multiple sausage dogs. And just recently, we went to a job where the customer put an Eastern Brown, about 1.2 metre Eastern Brown, into a pillow slip. And I'm thinking, how the hell did you do that with no experience? Even I would have trouble getting that snake into that tiny little pillow slip. So I've made a bet with myself, you've broken its back and you've stuffed it in there and it's not doing so well. So when I got home, I dropped the snake in my yard to check it and it bolted. It was perfectly fine. And when I tailed it, our horses came flying over. And we're saying, get away, get away. And as much as we were telling them to go elsewhere, they weren't listening to us. I was like, no wonder you big bloody goofs get bitten. You put your nose in and just to see what it is. Yep. And because of that, we would move on an Eastern Brown. We've had red bellies, customers ring me, not customers, neighbours ring me up and say, bloody big red belly, he's just left your place. And I ring Brooke and say, did you lock up a red belly? He's fine. Yeah, cool. Otherwise, the wild one just went through. I'm cool with that. All of the other species of snakes I happily cohabitate with.
That's all. I mean, you do talk about ones that you catch and that. Where do you take them? Like, obviously, you come to someone's house, you pick up a snake. What do you do with it? Where's it go?
It depends on what state. The legislation here in Queensland that we've got to take it to the closest possible proximity, the first decent bit of bush where it can be a snake without getting itself into trouble. In the early days, when like 30 years ago, I started doing this, in 1994, whatever it was, I would catch a snake in Helensvale and there would be an appropriate place in Helensvale. These days, I catch a snake in Helensvale, I've got to drive for 50 or more minutes to find an appropriate place for that snake. It also depends on what snake. If I catch a green tree snake, they are in every street and they are so small and stealthy and stay out of your hair that I'd happily find the first, like half a kilometre down the road, let him go. He'd be fine. No one's going to be upset about that. If I catch a 10 kilo, 3 metre carpet python, he's going to turn around and go, let's go back home. And he's going to cross 10 roads, 20 backyards with Rottweilers, backyards with humans with a shovel. He's going to have a lot of trouble getting back home. He's going to get killed. He'll get seen because he's so big, crossing a 3 metre snake, crossing the road, gets run over. Whereas a green tree goes straight across the road real quick. The carpet python's a big old sloth, and you'll get into trouble. Our big Eastern Browns, or Eastern Browns for that matter, we don't want them in amongst schools and kids and people, because I've often thought to myself, imagine if I let this snake go and then somebody got bitten because of it. So I always take them a good place away from where there's no humans, so they can be a snake without getting into trouble. I was talking to one of our guys at work with us back to back, a snake catcher in New South Wales, and she was telling me that the legislation for them is, I think, 1 kilometre. I'm thinking, snake 100% will head back. And we know there are some snake catchers around here that catch a snake and then take it down the road. And then the customers go, that's the same freaking snake. It's right back here. Look at the photo. That's it. And they call us. That's the ones that do call us. Imagine the ones that go stuff them snake catcher and shovel the snake because they didn't take it far enough away. And it comes back because we do charge. And obviously the customers don't want to keep paying us. So we've got to make sure they do not see them again. every single snake we ever catch, we photograph and put it on our page. There's a number of reasons for that. So at the end of the year, we can go, geez, this year we've done this many. We also compare how many Eastern Browns we took for our own, own piece, whatever, our own reasons. We said, oh, shit, we've done a lot of Eastern Browns this year. Or, gee, we haven't done as many last year. Or the customer rings me up and goes, look, I'm not happy with you. You release that carpet python back again. I said, mate, just remember it's breeding season. You've got an ovulating, you had, or you do have an ovulating female in your roof, and it's attracting all the boys. Here's the photo of the one we did last week. Does it look like the one you got now? No? Thought so. It's just a female bringing them around. It's to cover our ass. So sometimes we get accused of things, and we can say, look, here's a photo, or, whatever. So there's lots of reasons why I take photos, but look, you'll get lots and lots of snakes all the time, and lots of weird things happen. But releasing them in New South Wales, the lady that owns I'll Catch It Snake Relocations said to me, no, man, we're supposed to release them within 1 kilometre. I mean, how the hell do you get bush within 1 kilometre? You can't.
Yeah, no, that's not realistic. So yeah, like you said with the education thing before, I've been really impressed. Both my kids at school, they're different ages, have had people like yourself come to school. They bring a lot of wildlife with them. They teach all the kids about them. They show them. They really educate them, which is a huge difference, and it's great. And obviously, we've got all our zoos and wildlife parks and people like yourself that can come to your home and all those sort of things. So there's definitely options out there for people to learn. But if people wanted to learn some more, or they become Gold Coast locals and they actually need your assistance, where can they find to watch more of your shows and stuff? And where can they get a hold of you if they did need you to come and remove a snake?
Okay, our page is Gold Coast and Brisbane Snake Catcher. Harrison's Gold Coast and Brisbane Snake Catcher. The Harrison's bit is the most important part. The reasons why I started this before anyone else was around, and then a few other guys started up and started calling themselves Gold Coast and Brisbane Snake Catcher with an S, or the Brisbane and Gold Coast swapped around. So the name is so similar that a lot of people accidentally get it. So I changed it to Harrison's. You can't copy my name. So Harrison Snake Catching, if you search that, you'll find our page. There are a couple of zoos around. You can get education. We also have a page for our reptile shows. It's called Reptile Relocation and Awareness. That's actually the name of my business. And we also call it, if you search Jurassic Party, we've got that little bit in there because the kids love the idea of the Jurassic, and because we use crocodiles and snakes and lizards and turtles and everything. And for example, this weekend I've got 2 birthday parties. And I find what you were saying a second ago about the education, when I go to a snake call, you'll have grandparents, get the 410, just blow its head off. That's their attitude. The adults that are our age are up on the table squealing because they're scared. And the kids go, no, Dad, it's just a carpet python. What's your problem? Because us educators trying to curb the attitude of an adult is like, it's impossible sometimes. They're stuck in their way and they don't want to listen. Whereas I find that when I go to schools, I'll do my show. 6 months later, they have a red belly inside their childcare centre, and that childcare centre says, those kids, although they're only 3 or 4 years old, and they were talking and out there with the fairies, you think they're not listening? They were listening, and they knew exactly what to do, and they said, Miss, snake. All disappeared and left it alone, and the teachers went, I was so proud of them. I was sitting there going, my job done. I've done what I've got to do, that's what I try to do. If I can save one pet or one human, I'm happy.
That's awesome, Tony. And like your whole philosophy around your business is very similar to our whole show. It's about giving people education so they know what the result's going to be and they can actually do an educated decision to do the right thing. Like I say, it's very simple here, whether you're on the Gold Coast, Brisbane, wherever you live, it's very simple just to keep away from the snakes. I walk 6 to 7K every morning. I haven't seen a snake in 3 years. But if I did see one, I'd just cross the road or walk a different way. It's not a big deal. And once you've been educated by someone like yourself or one of the many wildlife parks, that they're not that scary to co-live with. And all people need to do is either keep away from them or ring a professional and have them removed.
Yep.
So thanks for giving us up your time today. Obviously, you're a very busy man. We appreciate you basically telling us what to do and then how people can get that help. I will throw up some information on our page on how people can get in touch with you if they ever needed to, and obviously how they can watch all your videos. Future episodes of Keen on Australia, we'll be talking to more people about moving, more people that have moved. If there's any questions you have, please reach out and ask us, because the questions you give us is how we find our guests like Tony to bring on the show. Thank you for enjoying another episode of Keen on Australia, and we'll be back again soon.